Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we break down complex topics so you get the essential knowledge fast.
Glad to be here.
And we're brought to you today by Mind Expansion Daily. Seriously, if you want more vital health insights like what we're about to share, you should definitely visit mindexpansiondaily.com.
Absolutely.
And while you're there, please do hit like and subscribe for Mind Expansion Daily. Join the community, stay informed.
It really helps us get this information out there.
It does. And look, if you find today's deep dive valuable, maybe consider buying us a coffee. The link's right there in the description. It helps us keep doing this work.
We appreciate the support.
Okay, so today's topic, systemic lupus erythematosus, usually just called SLE or, well, lupus.
Right. It's often known as the great imitator, and for very good reason. It's a chronic autoimmune disease.
So our mission today, looking at the data, is pretty clear. Give you a sharp, thorough understanding of the main symptoms, and crucially, why spotting this early is such a game changer. We're talking about 1.5 million Americans living with this.
Exactly. And the difficulty is right there in its nature. The sources we looked at confirm lupus mimics so many other things. Stress, infections, you name it.
Which leads to that staggering statistic, 50% of patients initially misdiagnosed.
50%. It's unbelievably high.
And that misdiagnosis, it can push back actual treatment by, what, up to 6 years?
Up to 6 years. And when you understand the potential damage lupus can do, well, 6 years is a lifetime.
Especially when you hear that 40% of patients might face severe complications, like kidney failure, irreversible kidney failure. A 6-year delay feels devastating then.
It really does. So bridging that knowledge gap is it's urgent.
Okay, let's start there then, the stakes. What are we really talking about with this hidden disease?
Well, the baseline numbers from the Lupus Foundation of America set the scene. 1.5 million Americans affected currently.
And 16,000 new cases every year.
Right. But like you said, it's the cost of that diagnostic delay that really demands focus.
Translating that delay into, like, physical reality?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for someone's body?
It's not just 6 years of feeling unwell. It's 6 years of chronic internal inflammation doing damage. The sources highlight that this delay increases the risk of kidney failure by 30%.
30%, wow.
And the risk of heart disease jumps by 20%. Because lupus is systemic, it's body-wide, and that clock is constantly ticking.
It seems like such a paradox, right? A condition affecting so many people, yet it's so often missed.
But there is good news. Real positive reinforcement here. Early intervention works, and it works well.
Yeah, I saw that Health Affairs data from 2024. Early diagnosis programs cut kidney complications by 20%.
And saved $1 billion in healthcare costs, which is incredible.
That $1 billion.
Yeah.
That represents actual lives, right? People avoiding dialysis, avoiding chronic illness.
Absolutely. And the treatments we have now, often corticosteroids, maybe antimalarials, they work by reducing that inflammation, managing the immune system's attack. They're effective in about 70% of cases, controlling symptoms within 6 months.
So medical tools are there?
The capability is there. The challenge is getting the diagnosis right and getting it early. Without that timely identification, we're leaving, 40% of patients exposed to really severe, potentially irreversible organ damage.
Quality of life versus chronic suffering, often just hanging on that early recognition. Okay, if the stakes are that high, we absolutely have to know the signs. Which brings us to the core symptoms. I actually tried that lupus symptoms unveiled challenge you mentioned. Tried to list the main red flags from memory based on our sources.
Oh, interesting. How did you do?
I think I got 7. But I'm wondering if I picked up the real signals or just, some of the background noise.
Well, that's a great way to approach it. Because understanding lupus means understanding its clinical picture. Let's check your list against what the Mayo Clinic and the CDC highlight, especially looking at how common each symptom is.
All right, here's what I had. Let me see. Extreme fatigue, really debilitating. Then joint pain and swelling, very achy, the classic butterfly rash on the face. Photosensitivity, reacting badly to sunlight, noticeable hair loss, painful mouth sores, and recurring low-grade fevers. That was my 7.
You nailed the 7 core flags. That's perfect. Those are the symptoms that affect most patients and should definitely prompt a deeper look.
Okay, good.
And if we put some numbers on them, based on clinical data, that deep, overwhelming fatigue hits about 80% of patients. And like you said, it's not just being tired, it's profound.
Right.
Joint pain and swelling affects 70%, and that's where the confusion starts, right? Looks a lot like arthritis.
But wait, if 70% get joint pain, which is super common anyway, how do doctors avoid just saying, oh, it's arthritis and sending people away for years?
That's the absolute key insight. It's the pattern. It's the cluster.
Yeah.
Standard arthritis doesn't usually show up with the other things you listed. For instance, that malar rash, the butterfly rash across the cheeks and nose, that happens in about 50% of patients. It's a hallmark sign, sure, but maybe not everyone gets it.
Right.
But joint pain, plus that rash, that starts to build a unique picture, distinct from, say, standard rheumatoid arthritis.
So it's the combination of symptoms, not just one in isolation.
Exactly. Then add photosensitivity. Those sun-triggered rashes affect 40%, and hair loss hitting 30%, which is directly tied to that systemic inflammation.
Okay.
And you also got the more localized signs. Mouth sores, those painful ulcers, affect about 25%, and those low-grade fevers, which occur in 30%, especially during flare-ups.
Individually, maybe not so alarming, but together.
Together, they should be screaming lupus, or at least the possibility of it.
Which leads us back to the puzzle. If these signs are relatively common in the cluster, why does that 2023 study still show half of patients getting misdiagnosed initially? Where's the disconnect?
It really is that master of disguise quality.
Yeah.
Think about a typical doctor's visit. It's often short. The doctor hears about joint pain, thinks arthritis, hears fatigue, thinks stress, maybe depression, low fever, probably just an infection.
Right, they see one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And lupus symptoms fluctuate, right? Severity waxes and wanes. Major flares hit about 60% of patients, but unpredictably. So someone might come in during a milder phase.
And the doctor dismisses it as just stress or maybe chronic fatigue syndrome.
Precisely. It gets written off.
And there's that big demographic piece too, isn't there?
Huge. Women make up 90% of all lupus cases. And research shows they sometimes report symptoms that are maybe subtler or more diffuse. It just makes the diagnosis even harder to pin down initially.
It really takes a high level of suspicion from the doctor then to connect those seemingly unrelated dots.
It does. You have to look beyond the immediate complaint.
Okay, so thinking about what gets missed, what really struck me from our sources were two major symptoms that often fly under the radar entirely. These are the internal signs, suggesting the inflammation is hitting deeper systems. I missed these in my memory challenge, and they seem critical.
They really are. They're often the aha moments that signal things have gotten more serious systemically. First one is chest pain.
Affecting 20%.
Affecting 20%. And this isn't just muscle strain. It's often from inflammation around the heart or the lining of the lungs. Doctors call it pleurisy. It can be sharp, serious pain. It's an immediate red flag that needs investigation, like scans.
Okay, chest pain. And the second big missed sign. This one links directly to the most feared outcome, right?
Yes, that's the kidney problems.
Ah.
This affects about 30% of patients. And the scary part here is how silent it can be.
Silent. How so?
Well, sometimes the only initial signs might be subtle swelling in the legs or ankles, or maybe protein showing up on a routine urine test. There isn't always obvious pain.
So you wouldn't necessarily feel it happening?
Yeah, not always, no. Which means doctors need to be proactive, screening for it, especially in someone with other potential lupus signs, rather than just waiting for the patient to report kidney pain.
Okay, that makes sense. So given these risks and how tricky it is, we really need to highlight who should be most aware, most vigilant.
Definitely. We've established women are 90% of cases, and the peak age for diagnosis is typically between 15 and 44. That covers about 70% of diagnoses.
And the disparities, they are really stark.
They are. We absolutely have to emphasize this. Minority groups, specifically Black, Hispanic, and Native American populations, they face significantly higher rates of lupus. We're talking 2 to 3 times higher.
And worse outcomes, too.
And 30% worse outcomes. It's a major health equity issue, whether it's genetics, environmental triggers, access to care, or a combination. The need for awareness and early detection in these communities is just paramount. We have to reduce those tragic gaps.
So let's pull back and look at the big picture again. If we fail to catch those 7 core symptoms early, if those internal signs like chest pain and kidney issues get dismissed, what are the really severe long-term consequences if that inflammation just keeps going unchecked?
Well, the outcomes shift from, frustrating symptoms to genuinely life-threatening organ damage. That 40% risk of kidney failure. In the U.S., that's about 20,000 cases every year.
20,000.
And on top of that, patients have that 20% higher risk of heart disease. The data suggested around 10,000 heart attacks were linked to lupus complications just in 2023.
It really drives home why it's called systemic lupus erythematosus. It's attacking the whole system.
The entire body. And the impact on daily life is profound, too. Depression and anxiety affect about 30% of patients. It's often intertwined with the fatigue, the pain, the uncertainty.
I was gonna dabble.
And finally, blood disorders are common, too. Things like anemia, Low platelet counts or even dangerous blood clots affect about 20%. It truly touches every aspect of physical and mental health.
Wow. There was that story in the source material, the anecdote about the 28-year-old woman.
Yeah.
It really captured that whole experience, didn't it?
It really did, spending years going from doctor to doctor, dealing with the fatigue, the rashes, the joint pain.
Only to be told again and again it was just stress. Or, you're just busy. It's part of being a young professional.
Can you imagine how invalidating that must feel? The emotional toll? That delay isn't just physical damage, it erodes trust. Trust in your own body, trust in the medical system.
Until she finally insisted on seeing a specialist, right? A rheumatologist.
Exactly. And with a proper comprehensive assessment, the lupus diagnosis was finally made. Then, treatment started, those targeted antimalarials, maybe some corticosteroids.
And her quality of life was restored.
It highlights just how crucial patient persistence can be. You have to advocate for yourself.
And that individual effort, that knowledge, it has a ripple effect, doesn't it? The sources connected this personal struggle to bigger systemic impacts on health.
Absolutely. That early diagnosis push in 2024, it wasn't just about individual patients feeling better. It cut hospitalizations nationwide by 15%.
Saving $800 million.
Right. And think globally, 5 million people have lupus worldwide. Our sources suggest that about 30% of the serious complications are actually preventable with timely diagnosis and care.
30% preventable, that's huge.
It is, just raising awareness, basic education. The impact is massive. In the U.S. alone, better awareness could potentially prevent 25% of all lupus complications.
Saving an estimated $5 billion by 2030.
$5 billion. That's an incredible return on investment for just knowing the signs, knowing the difference between everyday stress and a serious systemic disease.
That really feels like the core message here. Okay, let's quickly recap the key takeaways we've pulled together today.
Let's do it.
We nailed down those 7 core symptoms covering most cases. That overwhelming fatigue, the joint pain, the signature butterfly rash, reacting to sun, photosensitivity, hair loss, mouth sores, and those recurring low-grade fevers.
But the real insight from this deep dive is extending that awareness to the 2 critical, often overlooked internal signs. The chest pain, from pleurisy perhaps, and those silent kidney issues.
Recognizing those early is the key defense for 1.5 million Americans. It's how we fight that potential 40% kidney failure rate.
Couldn't agree more. Early recognition is everything.
And here's something interesting to think about, connecting this specific knowledge to maybe a broader shift. I saw mention of a 2024 post on X.
Ah, yes, the one calling for autoimmune education.
Right. It got something like 22,000 likes really fast. And it wasn't just talking about lupus symptoms. It was arguing for mandatory autoimmune education in high school health classes.
Which suggests that this kind of critical health knowledge might be moving beyond just the clinic, becoming part of, well, essential public literacy. People are demanding to know this stuff.
Knowledge is becoming power, maybe.
Seems like it.
So our message to you listening is clear. No lupus. Recognize the patterns in yourself or others. Reclaim your health.
Well said.
And again, if this deep dive helped you, please consider supporting our work. You can buy us a coffee. The link is right there in the description. Every bit helps us continue.
We also want to hear from you. We challenged you earlier, and here it is again. Leave a comment. Do you agree with our summary of this tricky disease? Did we miss anything crucial from your perspective? Let us know.
Yes. And one more thing, please. Tell us where you're listening from. Just type your city or country in the comments. We love seeing how far this information is reaching, and our goal is definitely to expand that worldwide reach.
It's fascinating to see the global community engaging with this.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, and join us next time for another deep dive into a topic that matters for your health and understanding.